Everyone, welcome to my class today. Today we'll see a topic in nervous system disorder, that is head injury. So head injury is a common condition you would have come across in a neighborhood due to accidents, falls or any violence. It can cause head injury. So coming to the definition, it is a craniocerebral trauma. Cranio is the skull, cerebrum is the brain tissue. So anywhere the trauma occurs where it can cause damage to scalp. Scalp is the skin covering the skull. Skull is the bone and the brain tissues which can cause changes in the level of consciousness and abnormal motor response. Motor is movement problems and reflexes can get damaged in case of head injury. So most head injuries are fatal, that is on the spot when the accident happens. Mostly patient, if they have a head injury, they will die soon because cerebrum cannot survive without blood more than 3 minutes. Okay, and so even if they survive, there is a poor prognosis because of massive hemorrhage. It can lead to shock and eventually death. And coming to the epidemiology, so more than billion victims are coming to the healthcare services with an accident or any injury to the head, and among them 20% die in the hospital because they have a severe traumatic brain injury. And males are more often affected or often have this head injury than females. It is because males take more of risky behaviors and also alcoholism and other habits. Deaths from head trauma will occur immediately after the injury, or it can also prolong till 3 weeks. So if they die at a later stage, then it can lead to multi-system failure due to shock and hemorrhage. And when you see the types of head injury, so there are mainly 3 types, that is scalp lacerations, skull fractures and traumatic brain injury. Okay, and skull fractures are again further divided into linear fracture, depressed fracture, simple, comminuted and compound fracture. And traumatic brain injury are divided again classified as concussion or minor head trauma, contusion which is a major head trauma, or cranial hematomas, that is blood clot occurs later after a head injury episode, and diffuse axonal injury. And again contusion is again divided as coup and counter coup injuries. Coup is on the area of the impact. When there is a direct injury, it is called coup, and counter coup is opposite to the area of impact. There can be injury. And cranial hematomas are again divided as epidural, subdural and intracerebral hematomas according to the area where the blood clot is formed. Okay, so dealing about these types of head injuries. So first is laceration. So laceration is nothing but a tear. Okay, the scalp tissue will tear and there will be a massive bleeding because the scalp is made up of so many blood vessels, and these blood vessels do not constrict immediately, so there will be more bleeding, and because of bleeding patient can go for hemorrhage, anemia, and when there is an open wound, microorganism can enter easily and they can cause wound infection. And coming to the types of skull fractures, so it can be a linear fracture. So linear, as the name, there will be a one line like break in the bone, so that is break in the continuity of bone, and there won't be relationship with the parts, and this is usually occur due to low velocity injuries. Okay, so it is like a simple linear is like a line, the bone will break. And depressed fracture is, it is inward indentation of the skull, that is due to any forceful blow on the skull, the part of the brain will get part of the skull will get depressed, that is called depressed fracture. And simple fracture, so simple fracture can be either a linear or a depressed fracture, but there will be a simple form of this fracture, and there won't be any bone fragmentation. Okay, that means there won't be tear or visible injury, or any bone pieces will not be there in case of simple fracture. Whereas comminuted fracture, there can be multiple linear fractures, so many linear fractures, so because of that small pieces of bones will get detached from the skull, so there will be fragmentation of bone pieces. So this can be occur due to high impact blow. Okay, so when there is a severe blow on the head, then this comminuted fracture can occur. And compound fracture is a type of depressed skull fracture, and it has scalp lacerations, that is injury and tear in the tissue, and here the fracture will be very severe, that is the communication from the outer skull till the inner brain intracranial cavity there can be a large damage and there can be a severe head trauma. Okay, so here there will be both fracture and also injury to the brain structures and scalp laceration. So all joined together they call it as a compound fracture. Okay, and next type is the traumatic brain injury. So traumatic brain injury, it is again classified as concussion. Concussion is a minor form of head trauma. So here there will be a mechanical injury on the area where the impact had occurred, and in that area the nerves will lose their function and patient may have a loss of consciousness, maybe total or partial loss of consciousness, but only it is a transient. Transient means temporary period, that is the consciousness loss of consciousness will be for less than 5 minutes. And contusion is a severe type of injury, or it is called as a major form of head injury. So here there will be bruising. Bruising means there will be redness and the area there will be blood clot, everything will be formed. Okay, bluish discoloration can occur, and so here mostly the injury will be closed. Okay, so inside there will be a massive damage, but you cannot see any visible hemorrhage outside. So in the inner area, where the impact had occurred, where the blow or where the injury is there can be hemorrhage. Hemorrhage is bleeding. Infarction is death of the tissue due to lack of blood supply, and necrosis is where the tissue is decayed and damaged, and edema can occur, and it is a major form of injury. And again it can have a coup or counter coup. Coup is on the area of injury, there will be a massive damage, and counter coup is opposite to the area where the injury is there. Okay, there will be a secondary damage. And cranial hematoma, so here there will be collection of blood within the skull. Okay, so because skull is a closed cavity, the blood clot will be collected inside, and because this blood clot is collected inside, they can compress the nerves, and also they can prevent the blood flow. Because of this, the area of the brain will lack blood supply, and also nerves compression can cause loss of neuronal function. And next is diffuse axonal injury. So axons are the part of the neurons. So this whenever the brain is getting injured, the axons are getting also injured. So here and there, because brain is made up of million of neurons, so many of the axons in the neurons, because of this tensile force. Tensile is the blow. Okay, so the tense blow force will cause the damage in the neurons, and because of that, neurons are mainly function is to transmit the impulses, so they won't transmit the impulse. Okay, so all the area of the white matter, cerebral hemispheres, basal ganglia, thalamus, brainstem, so in anywhere the axons can get damaged, so that is called as diffuse axonal injury. Diffuse is spread here and there, many areas of the axons are injured. And next is types of contusion injury. So in coup injuries, the impact will be directly on the area where the blow is there. Okay, so when the head is injured, on that area, if there is a hematoma formation, or that is a closed injury with hemorrhage, bleeding, in that area, directly on the area where the hit had happened, if the skull is damaged, and that is if the injury is there, then it is called coup injuries. And sometimes object can hit the person in one area, but opposite to that area, due to compression, the nerve damage will occur, that is called as counter coup. Okay, that is in a secondary side, that is not on the direct injury side, but opposite to that side of impact, the skull and the brain will get injury, that is called as counter coup injury. Okay, coming to types of cranial hematoma. So first is epidural hematoma. So epi is above, so above the dura, that is below the skull, and above the dura there can be bleeding and blood clot formation. So mostly it is occur due to linear fracture, and if there is any tear or rupture in the artery or vein, then the blood will get collected beneath the skull, that is called as epidural hematoma, and it is a neurologic emergency because there will be massive bleeding which can compress the brain tissues and patient can die. So immediately treatment has to be done, like removing the excess accumulated fluid so that patient can regain the health. And subdural hematoma, okay, sub is below, so below the dura mater and in between the arachnoid layer, okay. So below the dura mater, the middle layer is called arachnoid layer. So in between the dura and arachnoid layer, if the bleeding is present, then it is called bleeding is present and a clot is formed, then it is called a subdural hematoma. So here the brain tissue and the parenchymal blood vessels are damaged, and subdural hematoma are again divided into acute subdural hematoma, which means the hematoma will occur within 8 hours of injury, and subacute subdural hematoma is within 2 to 14 days of injury hematoma can occur, and chronic is more than weeks or months it will take for hematoma to occur. Okay, so these are the three types of subdural hematoma. And in intracerebral hematoma means it is bleeding within the brain parenchyma. Okay, so when the brain cells if there is a bleeding, then the hematoma can form in that area. So most commonly frontal and parietal lobes are mostly affected with hematoma, and they can cause rupture of the intracerebral blood vessels at the time of injury. And next, coming to causes of head injury, so there is motor vehicle collision, sports and recreational injuries, violence or assaults, falls and accidents, and penetrating injuries. So in all these head injury can occur. Let's see one by one. So motor vehicle accidents can occur when they collide in car, motor vehicles or bicycles, and even pedestrians. Pedestrians are those who walk on the roads and someone is hitting the a bike or something is hitting the pedestrian, then they can cause brain injury. And sports or recreational injury, like there are so many sports like soccer, boxing, football, baseball, lacrosse, skateboarding, hockey, and all these other high impact extreme sports are there where young people are more commonly involved in these sports, and they can get damage to the brain. And violence related injuries, okay, so when persons are fighting with each other, like using gunshot wounds or explosives in military, among military personnel, and any domestic violence at home, beating each other, or any child abuse, okay, so children are abused with maybe in their daycare centers or anywhere they can be abused. And shaken baby syndrome, okay, so this also one type of child abuse where the infant are violently shaken and they are bit, okay. So in all these conditions patient can get sustain a head injury. And falls can be falling from a bed or ladder on any downs in a staircase or in the bathroom, or any other falls where the head is getting blowed on the uh, ground, and it can cause injury to the brain. So it is most commonly in older adults, because older adults will lose the balance and they can fall, and young children also, whenever there is wet floors etc, they and also slippery floors can cause falls. And penetrating injuries, so any object, sharp objects or any gunshot wounds or anything like bullets, when they penetrate inside the person's head, then it can also cause injury, okay. So these are the causes of head injury. And coming to pathophysiology, so any of the tensile force, okay, so tensile is some high velocity force is hitting the head, which can cause shear or tear in the blood vessels. So they can tear the blood vessels, they can tear the axons of the nerve cells, okay. Axon is a part of nerve cells. So when they tear that, there is blood, if there is a damage in the blood vessel, there will be massive bleeding. This massive bleeding, when it is, and also skull is a closed area which will not allow the blood to come in outside, so because of that the bleeding will accumulate inside and they form hematoma. And this hematoma can compress the ventricles, and also they compress the nerves, and when the ventricles are compressed, the fluids that is the in the ventricles, cerebrospinal fluid is flowing, and this cerebrospinal fluid will get accumulated more and more, which can cause cerebral edema. When there is cerebral edema, the pressure is increased, that is intracranial pressure will increase. This occurs when there is a tear in the blood vessels. And on the other hand, when the axons are ruptured, okay, and axons are tear or ruptured, there can be axonal swelling, damage, and axon will disconnect. Okay, that means axon will not transmit the impulse through the neuron. That is called axonal disconnection. Okay, and next is hematoma, that is formed due to bleeding, can cause nerve damage because they will compress the nerve. And axons, when they get damaged, they don't transmit the impulses, so because of that motor and sensory function will get damaged. Okay, and same way, when the hematoma compresses, the nerves will get damaged. So whatever nerves are getting compressed in the brain, and that nerve what activity it does in the body, they won't function. Okay, so that is called loss of neuronal function, which can lead to loss of consciousness and progressive vegetative state. Okay, vegetative state means it is like a loss of consciousness where person cannot be aroused, but only breathing and the vital signs will be present, but patients cannot respond to the environmental stimuli. Okay, so like that patient, this is due to nerves are getting damaged, patient may go to a vegetative state. And next, coming clinical manifestation of head injuries. So in scalp lacerations, patient can have a hemorrhage, and because of bleeding, and also the wound will get infected, so patient can go for a fever and bruises. So that is when the lacerations occur in that area, there will be redness, swelling, and later it will change into bluish color. So there will be bruises or scratches formed in the injury area. And wound, if there is a wound, then the wound will progressively become red and warm, and that area of the wound will become warm, and there can be infection. So that is, the wound can get decayed and become infection, and because of all this, patient will have a severe headache. And in skull fractures, there can be battle sign. Battle signs is post auricular ecchymosis, that is bluish discoloration around the ears. Okay, so battle sign is around the ears. When bluish discoloration, it is called battle sign. And raccoon sign, bluish discoloration in the eyes, okay, around the eyes, that is called periorbital. Okay, orbits, around the orbits, that is the eyes, there is a bluish discoloration, is called raccoon size. And rhinorrhea is there can be CSF leakage through the nose. Okay, so there can be secretions coming from the nose, and these secretions can be a CSF secretion if there is a head injury. And otorrhea is CSF can leakage through the ears. Okay, there will be drainage from the ears, and sometimes it can be a CSF fluid. When there is rhinorrhea and otorrhea, so you have to identify whether the leakage from the ears and nose or CSF, or it is a simple blood. We have to do a sign called halos or ring sign. Okay, so in halos or ring sign, we have to take a towel, and the drainage, that is the draining fluid from the nose or ears, will be dropped into the towel. And when the after few minutes, you have to check for the formation of yellowish ring. Okay, if the blood is coalescing in between, that is blood will accumulate in between, and around the blood you can see a yellow ring like a halo. Halo means like whenever you see some god picture in the head, you can see some halo like thing. Okay, that is shadow, like light shadow will be there. Same way, you can see blood is in between, and around the blood you can see a yellowish shadow that is encircling. So that is called as halo sign. So if that is present, then you must know that there is a massive injury inside, and CSF is leaking through the nose and ears. Okay, so these are the signs you can see in skull fracture. And in case of traumatic brain injury, there can be bleeding. So bleeding, blood loss will be there, and loss of consciousness, amnesia, memory changes, patient will have severe headache. And motor deficit, that is movements like paralysis is weakness, and plegia is inability to do move the legs, extremities. Okay, plegia is paralysis. And sensory changes like loss of vision, hearing, sense of smell, taste, so all those touch sensation will be lost. So according to the type of injury, if it is a severe injury, then patient will lose all the sensation. And ataxia is lack of coordination of movement. So when cerebellum area is affected, then patient they will lose their balance. And signs of increased intracranial pressures like nausea, vomiting, headache is there. So these are signs of increased intracranial pressure, you have to identify that, and you have to check for the reflexes. If patient is having a massive head injury or he has gone for brain death, then you can see the pupillary reflexes absent. And behavioral changes like lack of awareness, decreased self-control, emotional outbursts, so all these changes in behavior. So patient will have some like a psychiatric patient, he changes all the behavior and decreased attention span, that is he is not able to listen or understand or comprehend. And lethargy is feeling of lazy, drowsiness is feeling of always sleepiness. And personality changes, that means he will not be able to groom or he will not be able to tidy himself, so he cannot do activities of himself. And lack of intellectual ability, like all the problem solving, communication, everything will be lost. And also patient will have difficulty perform activities of daily living. Okay, activities of daily living are bathing, cleaning, all those activities we do when we get up in the morning, all those will be lost for this patient. And next, coming to complications of head injury, so there can be medical and neurological complications. So in medical complication, patient will have infection. So because brain injury, there is an open wound, so microorganisms can enter inside and they can infect the brain, and they can cause another condition called meningitis. And there will be venous thromboembolism. This is because head injury patient, they are not mobilized, that is they have problems with movement, and when they are lying in the bed for a long time, all the dependent areas can go for thrombosis. Okay, the venous stasis will occur. Because of the venous stasis, there will form of thrombosis, and this moving thrombus can become like an embolism, and they can obstruct any of the major arteries or veins. And next, patient will have spasticity. That means when we don't use our extremities for a long time, the muscle tones will become stiff, so the legs extremities will become useless, so after that you cannot move the limbs. And bladder and bowel dysfunction, so mostly patient with neurological disorders, there won't be connection between the brain and the activity of the body, so bowel and bladder control will not be there, so patient can go for incontinence, retention or constipation, so any of these dysfunction can occur. And again, sleep disorders, so sometimes patient will sleep more, sometimes patient will be having insomnia, so like that so many medical complications can occur. And also neurological complication like seizures, hydrocephalus, sensory dysfunction, movement disorders, psychological disorders, altered consciousness, communication disorders, and degenerative brain disorders, this all can occur as a complication. Okay, so medical complications, so as I already said, infection, so this is due to open wound which can attract the microorganism to enter inside, and they can damage the meninges, and through meninges they can also microorganism can enter the brain and infect the brain cells. And as I said, venous thromboembolism, so it is more chance of getting venous thromboembolism in brain injury. So because here the bleeding, we cannot administer any anticoagulant drugs for this patient, so patient will have this complication. So more than 54% of patient will go for venous thromboembolism if they have a head injury. And next is spasticity, so as I already said, the neuron functions will be lost rapidly after an injury, and they all the orthopedic sequelae means the bones and muscles will become stiff, so the muscle tone will increase and spasm will be there, so that you cannot move the limbs properly, so there should be enough rehabilitation done in order to help the patient to recover the activities of daily living. And same way bowel and bladder function, so urinary dysfunctions like incontinence can occur because the detrusor muscle which is present in the bladder is overactive. So when it is overactive, it will start contracting and pushing the urine out, so because of the patient will have incontinence. And neurogenic bowel conditions like either incontinence or constipation occur, but most commonly patient will have fecal incontinence because the anal sphincters are not working properly due to nerve damage. And sleep disorders, so mostly people will suffer with insomnia is lack of sleep, or sometimes have hypersomnia, that is increased sleep. and excessive daytime sleep and impact circadian sleep-wake patterns. Okay, circadian is like people sleep in the night and get up in the morning. So, but these persons will have a reverse function. Okay, that is called sleep disorders. And other neurological complication like seizures. So because if there is a trauma and a hematoma which is causing a blood clot formation, then it can cause abnormal functioning of the neurons. So the electrical activity of neurons functioning abnormally and uncontrollably, which can result in seizures or epilepsy in the later years. So mainly we give phenytoin or levetiracetam to prevent the seizures. And next is hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus is, as I already said, when there is more fluid, when there is any hematoma formation which can compress the ventricles, and these ventricles contain CSF fluid. When they compress, the CSF cannot drain properly. Because of that, all the fluid will get accumulated within the ventricles and they can cause swelling and brain and increase intracranial pressure. Okay, and more than 70% have this problem after an injury. So mainly if patient is having hydrocephalus, we have to surgically implant a shunt, that is called ventriculoperitoneal shunt. We will be implanting, so that shunt will come from the brain to the peritoneum, so excess fluid will be drained to the peritoneal cavity. It is one of a treatment option. And next, patient will have sensory dysfunction like loss of sensation in face, altered taste, altered smell, and loss of vision and hearing loss. So here we have to give good rehabilitation for the patient to regain the function. And patient will have movement disorders like tremors, dystonia, Parkinsonism, myoclonus. So these are all post traumatic disorders which can occur because the problem will be in the basal ganglia, cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus and white matter tracts. Okay, when these areas are affected, patient will have movement disorders. So you have to see the cause and treat the cause, and if there is a hydrocephalus or hematoma, immediately we have to do surgery and treat the cause. Another complication like psychological disorders. So here there will be problems with behavior and emotion. That is, patient will get agitated, that is angry always, and he won't have self control, lack of awareness. Sometimes he will not know what is happening. He may not respond to us, and risky behavior like falling from the bed, or he will do anything because he is not having the knowledge or comprehension, so he can do risky behavior. And suddenly he may cry, he may shout, anger will be outbursted, and alcohol will be taken more in order to make the person feel happy. So alcohol taking and binge drink, more drinking, anxiety, depression, mood swings, irritability, anger, lack of empathy. Okay, so empathy is sorry feeling will not be there. Okay, so all those behavioral changes can occur after head injury. And cognitive changes like memory loss, inability to learn information, and lack of reasoning and judgment, decreased attention, concentration problems, and he will not be able to begin and complete any task. Okay, so all the intellectual ability will be lost. And sleep wake disorder. So after having a traumatic brain injury, they will have problems with sleep. Okay, so mostly patient may be awake at the night and in the mornings he may sleep. So you can use sleep hygiene training. Okay, that means you can tell the patient to follow the sleep pattern like bathing or drinking milk. So anything, whatever pattern before sleep the patient will follow, that you have to do. And other pharmacological agents like melatonin, benzodiazepine, zolpidem, or any sleep related exercises or any light music, any therapy which helps the patient to sleep, we can provide. And next is neurological complication is altered consciousness. So patient can go for coma. Coma is a stage where the person is not responding to any stimuli, but only the vital signs will be there, and it is a stage where the patient can go to a severe vegetative state. Okay, and next is vegetative state, where there will be widespread damage to the brain. Person will not be unaware about the surroundings, but in between he can just open the eyes or make sound like or some sort of sound. And next is minimally conscious state. So this state is in between coma and vegetative state. So here the person will have some awareness about the environment, and little of consciousness will be there for this person. And last stage is brain death. So brain death is when the brain and brainstem activity is lost, then patient may have a brain death. So once the patient has gone for a brain death, it is irreversible. Okay, that means you cannot bring the person to survive again. So these all the complications will occur in case of altered consciousness. And next complication of nerves is degenerative brain diseases. So mostly patients with any severe traumatic brain injuries, they will go to a condition called dementia. Okay, so here the nerves or will get damaged. Okay, so other people old age the nerves will degenerate, but in case of traumatic brain injury the degeneration will be more than 4 times, and it is most common for person who is getting repetitive injuries like any boxers or any sports person. When they get repetitively injury in the head, then they are most prone for getting the dementia. So and also this is based on genetic background. Okay, so if there is any genetic history of dementia and if person has sustained a head injury, then they are more commonly can go for dementia. The last neurological complication of head injury is communication disorders. So here they will have problem with speaking, writing, understanding the speech, thoughts, organizing thoughts and ideas, and doing conversation, selecting topic for conversation, and modulating the voice according to the situation, and also understanding non-verbal signals like sign language, and trouble with reading books, trouble with starting or stopping a conversations, and also they have dysarthria, is difficult speaking. Okay, that means the words will not articulate. So like if they want to say communication, they say communication. Okay, so like that there can be problems with the speech. Okay, so these are the complications. Next, coming to diagnostic findings. So here you will do a neurological assessment. So you can check the level of consciousness, motor function, sensory function, cranial nerve function, reflexes, everything should be assessed. And Glasgow score monitoring. So this to assess the level of consciousness. Mental status examination to see the mental health like emotions, behavior, cognitive function, everything can check using mental status examination. And CSF analysis and ICP, intracranial pressure monitoring. So this is due to CSF can get leakage and there will be bleeding inside the CSF. Sometime infection can occur as a complication. So everything you have to identify by doing a CSF analysis. And in laboratory studies, so you have to do a complete blood count. So in case of hemorrhage, there can be blood loss and anemia. And also if there is a fluid loss during hemorrhage, there can be electrolyte deficit. So you have to see the see all the electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, bicarbonate, etc., and also replace according to the electrolyte imbalance. And ABG analysis, this is you can see the oxygen saturation, and mostly patient is having hemorrhage, they can go for acidosis. So to identify that, we do a arterial blood gas analysis and coagulation studies. So because patient will have severe bleeding, so you have to see whether patient is not having other clotting and bleeding disorders. And imaging studies, so this is the main diagnostic test for head injury patients. So you do a CT scan. In that you can evaluate the brain trauma, how much of nerves are injured, if there is a bleeding inside, hematoma, everything can be identified. And in MRI brain, so you can see what type of head injury, like any bone broken, skull fractures, all those MRI will precisely help to identify the problem. And positron emission tomography, so here you can see the nerve functioning, metabolic activity of brain tissues, the pressure in the CSF fluid pressure, that is intracranial pressure, everything can be monitored. And transcranial Doppler, so in Doppler you can see how much blood flow is there, that is arteries, if they are damaged and have severe bleeding, then that can be identified. And cervical x-rays and CT scan spine has to be done, because whenever patient is having a head injury, even the spine can go for injured. Okay, so we have to see whether patient is not having any spinal injuries, because like unwanted turning, unwanted movement of spine can make the injury further. Okay, so you have to be sure that patient is not having any cervical problems, that is cervical injury. So you have to do a cervical x-ray or CT scan of the spine. And finally coming to management, so in emergency management you have to see the airway. So patient mostly they will have problems with airway, so you have to start oxygen or intubation ventilation using our ampubation. So we have to open the airway and start the oxygenation, and make sure the person's cervical spine is clear. So you have to stabilize the cervical spine and monitor vital signs, level of consciousness, oxygen saturation, everything should be monitored continuously, because patient can go for any complications at any time. And also oxygen should be administered, like intubation, mechanical ventilation as needed can be done. And patient will have hemorrhage, so we have to replace the fluids. So start IV fluids by using large bore needles, and blood grouping and RS typing has to be done, and also arrange for blood transfusion if there is a profuse bleeding. And in case there is external bleeding, then immediately we have to use dressing, and if suture is needed you have to suture it and prevent excess bleeding. And if there is signs of rhinorrhea, otorrhea, hollow signs, so these all you have to assess, so that we have to make sure the CSF is not leaking anywhere. And also if patient is having chills, because if there is more fluid loss and blood loss, patient can go for hypothermia. So warm blankets, warming lights and humidified oxygen can be given in order to make the patient's temperature normal. Okay, so these are emergency management. So in case of skull fractures, you have to perform certain surgery like craniotomy. So here the skull will be opened, and if there is any loose bone fragment, that will be removed. And if the skull is depressed, in case of depressed fracture, the depression has to be elevated up, depressed fracture can be treated. Okay, and craniectomy, so like when we are doing a craniotomy and we see some bone is damaged more, and if there is so many pieces of bones inside, then the destroyed bones will be removed, that is called craniectomy. And cranioplasty is repair of the cranium. Okay, so like when bone is lost, there are some artificial material, you can use that and replace the cranium, so that is called cranioplasty. And in case of hematoma, again surgical management is surgical evacuation with craniotomy. So here you will put a opening in the brain, that is in the skull, and then you have to remove the surgically, you have to remove the hematoma or any blood clot, whatever thing is present, that you can, parenchymal hematoma will be removed. And burr hole evacuation, so this is done if there is any bleeding inside. Again we do a craniotomy where the hematoma thickness is present. Okay, so near that area it will be done, and immediately the blood or fluid whatever is draining will be removed, so that decompression, okay, that means the compression of nerves will be prevented. Okay, and post-operatively, sometimes this burr hole evacuation, the person tube will be left in place after surgery also, so that there won't be reaccumulation of blood occurring inside the brain. This treatment for increased intracranial pressure, so you have to position the patient, that is elevate the head end to 30 degrees, place the patient in a neutral position. So in this position you can prevent nerve compression and also decrease the intracranial pressure. And also when the fluid is, that is when patient is having more of cerebral edema, and increased CSF can cause more of intracranial pressure. So to remove that, you have to do a drug therapy called osmotic diuretic. So osmotic diuretic is through osmotic pressure, it will remove the excess fluid from the brain, that is injection mannitol is given. So later followed by loop diuretics, injection Lasix 20 mg will be given. This is to remove the excess fluid from the body through the kidneys. So these two diuretics to remove to prevent cerebral edema. And also cerebral edema can predispose the patient to seizure, so anti-seizure drugs like phenytoin will be given to control the seizure activity. And also external ventricular drains, so again there are drains available which can be implanted inside the lateral ventricles through a lumbar spine. Okay, so and we can use an external, like urinary bag, there is an external ventricular bag, so in that the with the drainage system through gravity we can remove the excess fluid so that ICP will be decreased. Coming to the nursing management, so here you have to continuously monitor the vital signs in order to identify the complications and also the prognosis, etc. And neurological assessment, like with Glasgow Coma score, you have to monitor the consciousness and pupillary reflexes every hour, because patient, we must see whether patient is worsening or improving. And oxygen administration as needed, so whether it is a rebreather mask or a intubation ventilation, according to the condition of the patient we have to start with oxygen and also provide ventilatory care if the patient is on ventilator. And nursing care for immobilized patient, like we also have to meet the activities of daily living, like giving bedpan, urinal, or all the hygienic measures like oral hygiene, nail hygiene, bed bath, back care. All those care has to be done in the bed. And also we have to use the alpha bed and other bed in order to prevent bed sores. And antiemetic drugs like ondansetron, this is to treat nausea and vomiting, and patient if he has headache then acetaminophen. And these patients will have problem with communication, so you can give teach them sign language or use any communication boards to communicate with the person. Okay, patient and family education should be provided, that recovery may take more months and patient may be in vegetative state. So if he is in vegetative state, what all care has to be done, everything should be taught with the person, and help the family members to cope up with the behavioral, mood, personality changes. So these are all more common in head injury, so you have to tell that everything is due to the condition, so they have to adjust with the person and cope up with the person's condition. And also for patient who is getting discharged, you have to explain about the no policies, like no smoking, no alcohol, no driving, no hazardous work, no work with machinery, or any no dangerous activity. So yeah, all the risk taking behaviors the patient has to say no. Okay, so this all will be taught. To the nutritional therapy, so first few hours patient will be on Nilper oral, but enteral nutrition should be started within 48 hours after injury. Okay, so you can give like if patient is taking orally, foods can be given. Otherwise, if patient has to put a rice tube, and then you can start the rice tube feeding. Okay, so mostly in head injury patient may be unconscious and patient cannot verbalize that he is hungry or anything, so you have to make sure the patient is fed as early as possible. Okay, and also you have to advise 1.5 to 2 gram per kg per day of protein. This will help in healing of wound, and other vitamins like vitamin D, E, niacin, zinc, magnesium. So these are all neuroprotective, these are all helping in neuroprotection, so you have to supplement these vitamins for the patient. And omega-3 fatty acids, they can reduce the inflammation and stress, and also help in improving the brain cell function, and also help to recover from injury. So you have to supplement the patient with omega-3 fatty acids and other correction and supplement of electrolytes as per the laboratory values. Okay, so like if sodium is decreased, we have to supplement sodium, and if potassium is decreased, then you have to supplement potassium. So like according to the electrolyte imbalance, you will be giving the supplements. And finally we have to do prevention. So prevention is, whenever person is driving the car, you have to tell them to wear a seat belt. And even if children are going in the car, so mostly children should not sit in the front seat, they have to sit at the back seat, and they also has to use a seat belt or any booster seat is present according to the age, height of the child. You have to use the seat belt. Okay, and also if person is taking alcohol or drugs, he must not drive, so don't drink and drive. And also when person is using cell phones, so they should not drive using cell phones, like talking in cell phone or chatting in cell phones has to be avoided, because it can 4 times injure the person. And whenever we are going in bike or cycling or skating, so whatever any risky behaviors the person is doing, you have to tell them to wear the helmet or any protective gear. Finally, prevent falls at home. So older adults and also children are more commonly fall at home. So when we have to install handrails in bathrooms and also in the sideway of the staircase, so that persons can catch and walk, and it can prevent falling. And remove tripping hazards such as throw rags, clutters. Okay, so here and there you must not throw all the rags. So all the home has to be maintained properly without throwing items here and there, so which can cause slipping and falling. And also put lighting adequately at the house so that older people can see well and they can walk. And maintain all the regular activity for older adults. Okay, so whenever you are changing the positions of the cot or anything, so whatever you do at home, you have to inform the older adults that they are aware of that, and it can prevent falls by hitting the object. And also you have to, wherever water prone area is there, like bathtub, shower area or near the sink, so in all those areas you have to put non-slip mats so that it prevents slipping. And also for old age people, you have to do a regular eye examination so that we can identify their vision is normal, which can prevent falls. And whenever there is wet floor, we have to regularly mop and dry it so that it can prevent falls. Okay, I hope you would have understood my class. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, and also click the notification button and stay tuned.